Hey, it's the Midnight Raven, and today we're doing the March roundup of all the movies I watched throughout March. I'm going to give you a rating, tell you what I thought about them, and then the second video in this series is going to be everything I watched, reality TV and documentaries. I did the same last month, and I am trying to do it every single month. So if you're new to the channel, welcome. I am the Midnight Raven. I have a boyfriend, so currently I have spent a lot of time watching movies together. All different kinds of movies. Most of them, not gonna lie, are kind of horror inspired slash thriller. You ain't gonna get some lovey-dovey film on my channel, unfortunately. I'm just not that type of girl. So let's get into what I watched in March. So March was a very interesting month. I do have a Netflix subscription. I do have YouTube. I don't have many other subscription services. It's just not for me. I do watch things like E4 sometimes or Paramount sometimes, but I do concentrate on Netflix. It's an easy service to use. It's relatively affordable, multiple screens at a very good price. So that's what I use. So most of these are on Netflix. So the first thing I watched was on the 2nd of March, and I watched Human Traffic. So excuse the name, it's not exactly what it means. We're not watching something about human trafficking. We're actually watching a film about the nightlife. Yes, so a bunch of friends hang out, they take some drugs, but they look into different things like paranoia, sexual dysfunction, losing your grip on reality, using drugs. And there are a bunch of friends, and there's really cool music to it. There's a really cool soundtrack. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It came out in 1999. It's one of those films that you could just watch on a Saturday night and just like chill out. You don't necessarily have to be drinking and taking drugs yourself, but it's that kind of mellow film. It does have some like jumpy bits in it where the music's a bit thumpy, where you really could get into it. But it was a really cool film. Definitely a watch in my eyes. If you want a bit of old school music, definitely watch it. Next, I watched a film that I wasn't too sure about. This I was on the fence about, and this was Orphan First Kill. Now, I watched the original Orphan, and this is technically Orphan's origin story. 2 out of 5. And I'm going to explain why. So it came out in 2022. It took me a long time to watch it because I don't know. I don't know if the franchise needed a new film. I don't know if it needed to have an origin story. The film itself, up until a point, was fine. She escaped from an orphanage, once again, or a psychiatric facility, if you want to call it that. And then she ended up with a family, as she does in the second one. If you haven't seen the second one, I don't want to spoil it for you. But halfway through the film, she is adopted to replace a child that died. So they adopt her to replace a child that died in their family. And then it turns out, if you haven't watched it, spoiler time, the son had actually killed the daughter. And they were replacing the daughter with this daughter. And then they found out, obviously, that each other were lying. Orphan found out that they had killed the daughter, and then they were then trying to keep it from the dad, and it was all kind of weird, and it just went downhill from there. So it was a horrible story, horribly concepted. 2 out of 5. Wouldn't watch it again. Total waste of time. Next, on the 4th of March, we watched Cam. This got 3.5 stars. Came out in 2018. It's a fairly old film. It's about a cam girl who tries to get in the top 10 and tries to get in the top 50 and just wants to become the best cam girl she can be. And obviously, by a cam girl, I mean she's doing sexual stuff on camera to go up the rankings, kind of like OnlyFans, if you want to call it that. And someone steals her account within about 20 minutes of the movie. They steal her account. She can't get into it or anything like that. And then things just get weirder and weirder and weirder. It's a really good story. If I'm really honest, I'm not going to spoil it by telling you the ending because it will spoil it. But it has some little twists and turns in it. It is good. I love the woman who acts in it. I think she does really well. And I gave it 3.5 out of 5. It did drag on a little bit, and I think little bits could have been done slightly differently. But the film itself, as a concept, I think was really good. Next, on the 11th, we had a bit of a break from movies. I was watching more documentaries, which you will see in another video. Dark Shadows. This came out in 2012. 4 out of 5 stars. It's about a vampire. It also features witches. So if you're a vampire witchy fan, this is going to be for you. So it features a guy who falls in love with his maid. Unfortunately, the maid who he doesn't love puts a curse on him because she's a witch. So she tries to get the young maid to kill herself and throw herself off a cliff, and she jumps. And then the witch, who's a maid, who is in love with the count, if you want to call him that, when he jumps off the cliff to go with her, the witch turns him into a vampire so he can't die. Then she gets the entire town to hate him. She then buries him alive, and then years later he is dug up in a swinging 70s. It's all changed, and they end up fighting. They end up trying to take each other out. It's got a really cool sex scene if you're into that kind of thing with witches and vampires. It's a cool concept for a film. Only 4 out of 5 stars. I generally do not like the female witch in it. I think she's a very poor actress, and for that I had to take it down a bit. It also features Helena Bonham Carter and Johnny Depp, so 2 people I love watching. Next, we watched Renfield on the 15th of March. 3.5 stars, came out in 2023. This is about a vampire who is Nicolas Cage. Hear me out. Now, I know what you're going to say. Nicolas Cage playing a vampire sounds a bit weird, sounds a bit different. It totally is. It is worth a watch. It features Renfield, who is a subservient of the vampire, Mr. Dracula, and he has to go around getting him dead people to give him the blood. He then joins a support group for people that are having a rough time, who Dracula ends up killing. And there's a cop involved in it all. There's some gangs involved in it. It's a really interesting concept for a film. Again, Nicolas Cage, you do not expect to act really well as a vampire. His clothes, his flamboyance, really worth a watch. Even my partner said he was surprised just how good Nicolas Cage was at the vampire, but it only got 3.5. For me, the story fell a little flat. It kind of dragged on, and some of the acting is incredibly cheesy. But apart from that, good film. Next, 16th of March, I watched a film called Sting. This was recommended by my partner. He saw the concept picture of the art and really liked it. I personally, 3 out of 5. Came out in 2024. It's about a little girl who finds a tiny spider. Sounds sweet. It's not. So she puts it in a jar and she wants to keep it, because what tiny little girl doesn't want to keep a spider? Turns out that this is no ordinary spider. This spider grows and grows and grows and grows. We're talking about 6 foot across. And unfortunately, it eats people. It has a taste for blood. So it goes around killing people as it gets bigger and bigger. And then, not to spoil the end of the film, this thing is bloody huge. Huge at the end of it. Now, the guy in the film, the dad of the film, is actually a comic book artist and is actually writing a book on spiders and a girl who's interested in spiders, and it's a comic, and it kind of becomes real life, and it's quite funny. It has some good bits, it has some bad bits. It's a bit of a long-winded film. That's why I gave it 3. It does kind of drag on. Some of the acting is a bit basic. They do have a token black guy who is funny as fuck. He is the comic relief in the whole thing where it kind of drags. He does break it up. There are a couple of old ladies who are just funny. If you don't like petrified cats, this probably isn't for you. They do have some animals that die in it. Unfortunately, it is not as gruesome as it sounds, but I gave it 3 out of 5. It's worth a watch though, and it's on Netflix. Next, we have Woman of the Hour. Now, this for me fell flat. So, let me explain. Let me just get the synopsis up. So, I was looking at this film and I was thinking, you know what? It's probably quite interesting. This film alternates between Rodney Alcala's crimes in different locations from 1971 to 1979 and Shirley Bradshaw's life in Los Angeles that leads to her meeting Rodney on the dating game. So this is Anna Kendrick's work, and it features a storyline of Rodney Alcala who goes around murdering women, and he ends up somehow on a dating show, and he ends up meeting the character Shirley Bradshaw on the dating show with the idea of taking her to murder her. He previously, before he went on the dating show, he would act as a photographer. He would meet cute women, pretend to be a photographer, take them to a secluded location in the desert, take a few pictures, and then strangle them to death. Sometimes the victims would go willing. Other times, like the Shirley Bradshaw one, she was less willing. Now, it is a very long, drawn out, factual program / movie. It misses a good part. It drags on for so long on like unnecessary bits, and then when you get to the actual good bit, most of the storyline, what happens where he takes a 12-year-old and all that, never features it. It's just writing on the screen. I think it could have been done so much better and written so much better. It was directed by Anna Kendrick, who I think just fell flat. I think it had more potential. I think it could have been done better. I think it needed a bigger budget. Me personally, I think it failed. But I did give it 2 out of 5. It had some good bits. Don't get me wrong. It had some good bits, but for me, it failed more than it did. Unfortunately, Anna Kendrick, as much as she's a good actress, I don't think her directing something to do with serial killers. You need to put more detail in. You need to put more effort in. The story needs to be more filled out, and I think she just put more of herself on the screen than the actual factual information that was needed. So I didn't like it. And then the last thing I watched this month when it came to movies was on the 27th, and this was The Craigslist Killer. So this was another serial killer thing, but this was a bit different. So this was about a movie about 2 college kids. They were planning to both be doctors. It features a character called Philip Markoff, who has a promising career as a doctor, and his girlfriend Megan. They move in together, and as the film progresses, he has a taste for meeting women off Craigslist in a hotel, usually masseuses, and he would rob them of their money at the start. Unfortunately, one of these incidents went wrong and he ended up shooting the girl. Up until that point, he had just been robbing them. But one of the incidents went wrong. She fought him and he shot her. And then he was trying to hide, but unfortunately, the police were hot on his tail. and they caught up with him, and then obviously he was arrested. It was an interesting movie, a little bit drawn out again. I don't know what it is with serial killer stuff. They like to draw these films out. Rotten Tomatoes gave it a horrendous rating. I still had high hope for watching it. I did give it through 2.5 stars. The acting was a bit naff. The story could have been filled out a bit more. I think they could have done more with the actual murders and the killings rather than concentrating on their little love romance. I don't think that was as important to the story um, as it seems. But I gave it 3.5 stars. It came out in 2011. It's a fairly old movie again. I do like watching some of the older movies on Netflix rather than watching the up to date ones. And that was everything I watched in March. That was films. I do have a separate video for my documentaries and my reality TV. If you want to like and subscribe and let me know what you watched this month, any particular um, any movies that piqued your interest, give it a big thumbs up. If you want to support the channel, PayPal would be amazing, or a super chat or super thanks. I'm trying to do these every month. Obviously, the more we go into summer, I don't know how much I'll be able to watch, but I will still try and do these monthly. If it comes to it and I don't have enough to do 2 separate videos with the movies and the documentaries, I will just stick them into one video, and then that will make up for it. But like and subscribe. Let me know down below your favorite movie from March, and I will see you very soon. I'm gonna love you and leave you. Bye, guys.